The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of its host and owners and in no way represent the views of the people, institutions, or organizations that Scenic City Sports is involved with in a professional or personal capacity. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show.
My life upon the road, I'm still looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway. Like confetti in a New York parade on the parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, the leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. Circles in a square. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway, blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway.
And welcome to Scenic City Sports on this Sunday, May 15th, 2022. Scott Herbst along with Rob Covington and Rusty Parkhill turning the dials, and a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
Well,
a lot of stuff going on this weekend.
And how about some hometown flavor?
Yeah.
In the UTC girls Chattamooks.
The mock softball team, if you haven't heard, and you've been living under a rock, where you been? Southern Conference Tournament.
Ric Flair said that to a girl in the airport once. She didn't know who he was.
Knocks off Western Carolina 3-2. Takes down Samford, the second-seeded Samford Bulldogs, 2-0. Takes down number one-seeded UNCG 10-2, and then they fall behind in the championship game in a rematch against Greensboro, 7-1, and score 8 unanswered runs.
And that's just that's one of those help me out here. That's kind of one of those uncommon feats, especially in girls softball. I mean, you don't see those kind of usually those kind of comebacks in girls softball, but 29 and 25 on the year. Scott came in as a 3 or 4 seed, so they roughly played close to 500 ball most of the year. I think 99. Did they just catch lightning in a bottle this week?
It's one of those things that other teams have done it in the Southern Conference tournament before. All of a sudden you get hot, you get some momentum going. They hit 5 home runs in the championship game. 5 of them. 3 of them off the bat of one Reagan Armour, formerly of Heritage General, and set the Southern Conference tournament record with 3 home run game. I was trying to see who else. Gracie Cruz, former Gordon Lee player, not sure, second double of the tournament to drive in a run. And there's Kaylee Phillips, I believe, from Silverdale Baptist. So
quite a bit of local flavor on the girls team, and heavy contributors as well. You put up a picture this week, I think, Scott, of the Heritage / Ringo girls that are on UTC's team. I had no idea there was that many of them. About 11, 12. Did you not put that picture up?
No, that was the entire UTC team.
Oh, that was the entire UTC team. I thought you had Heritage.
Oh, no, I was just saying that Reagan Armour is from Heritage.
Okay.
But yeah, talk about local flavor. Ace Sellers from Baylor High School. Then we've got Kaylee Phillips from Silverdale Baptist. We have Hannah Wood from Red Bank High School. Brooke Parrott from Chattanooga Central High School. Addison Keelan from Ottawa High School. I thought this said Dade County. My bad. That's Dale County. That's Alabama. Reagan Armour from Heritage. Kat Thompson from Fort Payne, not too far down the road. Gracie Cruz from Gordon Lee. Presley Williamson from Boyd Buchanan. So, that's probably roughly, a third of the roster? Absolutely. Something like that is within an hour's drive.
Yeah, and I think I heard Ben Bobick, our good sideline friend, especially in football, mine and Nathan's particularly. I think I heard him report the 15th Southern Conference Championship.
I think it's their 15th title. I think it's their 12th tournament title. Okay. I was trying to see, because right now it's probably the selection show. It was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and I was just trying to find out if it had been updated yet to see. Okay, here it is. 15 minutes ago, they are going to the Tuscaloosa bracket. That would be Alabama. So obviously Alabama will be in that bracket.
Could have easily gone to Knoxville.
Yeah. I was trying to see. Well, I'll try to look that up as we're talking and whatever, and see if we can find out the brackets to see who else they're going to be playing, because there's usually like 4 teams.
Well, nonetheless, congratulations, UTC Chatham girls. You 500 on the year, but you caught fire, and it's always how we're playing at the end, more so than what you're doing in a long season. How many times have we seen MLB baseball teams that just played good down the stretch, i.e., the Braves last year, and go on to win the trophy.
Here it is, the Tuscaloosa bracket. Chattanooga at 3 p.m. Central Time on Friday will take on the number 6 overall seed Alabama in the first game, and the other two teams in that regional are Murray State and Stanford. And so they'll play, and then we'll see who moves on to the Super Regional. Alabama enters NCAA play having won 17 straight regionals starting in 2005. So it's going to be a tough draw, but you knew it would be.
They knew it would be. I mean, no matter where they went geographically, it could have been easy. Like I said, Knoxville, they'd have found 4 formidable opponents there as well. I do see Rusty, the Lakeview Cowboy, popping on the screen. Rusty, your thoughts on today?
Well, it was I'll be honest, it was a beautiful Sunday that I spent out and about with the wife, and had a chance to go out and hang out at Sweet Melissa's for a little bit, and got the fever to swing a cue a little bit, but did not today. But outside of that, overall great day. Excited, sat and watched a little bit of NASCAR qualifying this afternoon, and I the whole time I was watching, all I was thinking was, by God, they are doing everything they can possibly do to try to get people to watch at this point, because now they're qualifying just before they race.
Yeah.
Now they have this thing on screen to where the car that is the pole position car, they have this phantom video of that car, and whoever is qualifying, they put the phantom video of the pole sitter on the track with them so that you can see if they are ahead or behind.
Okay.
Which is I'll say that is a cool little piece of technology that I didn't think I'd ever see, but I did see today Kurt Busch's car, number 45. Obviously he drives for what is it? What's their official name? It's basically Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's race, and I can't remember what the name of the
23.
20, 20, it's something like that. Yeah, but 1123 or something to that effect. But anyways, the 45 car today is painted to look like Jordans from back in the 80s with the elephant skin print up the side of the car and the Jumpman on the hood. It was pretty sweet.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. So outside of that, Braves, saw the Braves are playing today.
Yeah, it started early, but they weren't on TV. I couldn't find them on TV. I had to rely on Greg Payne Post to know what was going on.
I went to the wife and I and some friends of ours went to a concert on Friday night, and I'm sitting at dinner in Nashville waiting to go to the show, and my phone rings, and it's one of my best friends that lives in Atlanta. And of course, they had blacked out Atlanta. The only way you could watch the game was on like MLB.com or I don't. Anyways, he calls me like, I got an emergency, and and he's not in great health. So when he says I got an emergency, I immediately, my heart sunk. Okay, Braves ain't on TV. I need your Apple passwords. I had to get him logged into my Apple TV.
I knew when you said Atlanta. I was like,
my God, I had to get him logged into my Apple TV where he could watch.
They've done that a couple times just recently. What would be the thought process on that?
I guess MLB has got a really nice, MLB.com now is revolutionized versus where it was 10, 12 years ago. And they've got some subscription packages that you can go on there and subscribe and get every game of your team. There's like an ultimate package or something that's a ridiculous amount of money. I want to say it's a couple $100 for the whole season, but it's kind of like the old the way the NFL Sunday Ticket used to be on DirecTV, where you got everything. And I think that they're trying to more or less force people's hands. If you want to watch every game, you're going to have to take this account out. You're going to have to do it this way. Okay. Otherwise, you're gonna get blacked out some ball games.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's.
I have Bally Sports South. It's on Comcast.
Yeah, me too.
Because I watch the Predators on there every time they're on. But
the Braves have been off twice now, just in a few days, and I was wondering what was going on with.
Well, I will say that our good friend Greg Payne had the line of the day on Facebook today, and it was that he, on the way to the game this morning, he walked into Buc-ee's. Passed a guy wearing a Ric Flair t-shirt and wooed at the guy, and the dude did not woo back. And Greg's exact words were, he didn't deserve to wear that shirt.
That was a gift that he was thinking about regifting someday because he don't even know why he's got it.
That guy probably looked at the shirt and said, somebody misspelled Rick.
Yeah, I'm like, if you can't...
Supposed to have a K on the end.
You don't understand that. That'd be like passing somebody in a Bama shirt and saying Roll Tide and them not saying Roll Tide back. I mean, that don't happen.
He's... The good news for somebody, they're going to get regifted that gift someday because he obviously doesn't respect it that much.
Great, you just went and ripped it off of him right there and just said, you don't deserve this shirt.
Now we'll give you a little musical rundown of where we were Friday night. Friday night took
a host of players.
Okay, so Friday night, me and Chrissy and the kids and the Hurstons and Aubrey, we all go to Nashville for the Mixtape 2022 tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen a show quite like this. Every show that I've ever seen that's been multiple acts, like let me put it this way, Scott. If that rap show you and I went to a few years ago, that Masters of the MC tour, if they had done that show like this, it would have been even more incredible than it was. So basically the way they did this show was like you were turning on a mixtape that you would have made back in the late 80s, early 90s. So they start out, New Kids on the Block comes right out the gate. I mean, they turn everything on. They walk out. They sing 5 songs, just right, bam, 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 bam. On the 5th song, they're out in the middle of the arena on this little square stage, and they finish that song up, and the house lights go down there, and as the house lights come back up on the main stage, In Vogue comes walking out in their white sequin gowns, and they sing Hold On to start with, and then they do a couple songs. House lights go down there. House lights come back up on the small stage. Rick Astley's out in the middle stage. He does a couple tunes. New Kids come back out. They sing 5 or 6 more songs. Then
they did some rehearsing.
Oh, this was...
Obviously.
I'm telling you, whoever came up with this concept, they played between the 4 acts because Salt and Pepper came out, a couple segments in too.
Yeah.
And between the 4 acts, they played for damn near 3 hours. No intermission, no nothing, just one right into the next, right into the next, right into the next. And they played everything that you possibly would have wanted to hear. And Donnie from New Kids even came out and did the rap part in Shoot for Salt and Pepper. I mean, it was just a really, really, really good show.
And Rick Astley did both of his songs?
He actually did, he did. He did both of those, and then he did.
Then he just
do them in Spanish and English.
And he did.
And I like Rick Astley. Don't get me wrong.
He did a couple other songs that I had never heard. But the funny part was, yeah, the funny part was,
real quick?
They got all the way to the end of the show. And you can tell that, I guess, that they just felt like he was the elder statesman of the bunch, and they needed to let him close it all out because at the very end of the show, they all came out, and the New Kids were all dressed in Boston Celtics jerseys, obviously all being Boston kids.
Yeah.
And the girls all came out dressed as they had been all night. Well, Rick Astley comes out, of course, goes total mark for the crowd, and comes out dressed in a Nashville Predators jersey, and the fans just go crazy.
Yeah.
And they all together sing "Never Gonna Give You Up" was the last song they played on the night. So
you feel like
you got to close with that.
You feel like Rick Astley kind of was the centerpiece.
In a way, I mean, I think it's one of those funny things that apparently I didn't realize this. I guess maybe in the last few years he had been in some bad health at one time.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And so, like Anthony Mason, if you ever watch the CBS Morning Show, Anthony Mason, who's their culture expert on there that does all the, talks music and everything. Come to find out, I follow him on Instagram. Well, he was at the show because he had done a feature on Rick Astley just a week or two ago, and this was kind of like the last little segment of it. And he made it there in time to see, before he went out. But yeah, I mean, it was just really good, man. I mean, never have been a huge New Kids fan.
Okay,
but
ticket
show.
Prices for this show
were not bad. We paid, you'd have to ask the wife, but I think we paid less than $70 a ticket for the show. And it was very much so more than $70 worth of entertainment.
I'm about to say,
obviously
$70, 3 hours.
Yeah, obviously not Eagles
acts,
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, Lord, no. No, I mean, the kind of money that you're looking at in some of these, some of these shows, the kind of money that you're looking at is, it's disappointing sometimes. I mean, we've been looking the summer tour. All the summer tours are out right now. We've been kind of going down the list. We've bought tickets for we've got tickets now for like 3 or 4 other shows. We're seeing the Black Crowes, the Dixie Chicks, Imagine Dragons, One Republic. Me and the kids are going to see Widespread Panic. But we looked at some other stuff. The Backstreet Boys are going out.
Yeah.
And just lawn seats to sit in the grass at Ameris Amphitheater in Atlanta are $78 a piece. And that's not counting, every time, Vivid Seats and I was going to get you with the fees. They're going to get you with the handling and all that. But, this is going to be a fun summer. I mean, there's a show coming up at Chastain Park that is, it's Bare Naked Ladies, the Gin Blossoms, and Toad the Wet Sprocket. There's a lot. I mean, if you're a 90s kid, 80s and 90s kid, this is your summer.
Well, and that gives me an opportunity to bring this up, Scott, because we know from pretty much the existence of Findlay how it has struggled financially. But over the last few years, some things that they've done differently under the leadership down there, it's found its mark to the black. Especially with the success of the TSSAA championships there, aided by some tremendous weather. But really, it was going to go well anyway, but that weather helped. But they just finally ran a concert down there that people have been waving their hands about forever and a day.
I heard it's only the third.
Why can't you? Why can't you?
Third show in the history of Findlay.
Skinner was there in 03, and then who was the other one?
I don't even remember.
It's obviously
I don't remember who the other one was, but it was three shows total is all they've had.
Especially in this time of year, when it sits dormant almost, except for some soccer usage. I mean, why that's been so reluctantly to be had is somewhat of a mystery.
So the thing about it is if you go to a lot of concerts like we do, that there is a pecking order of acts. I mean, that there are your A acts, which are the ones that are current and up to date, your Justin Biebers and your Selena Gomez and all the ones that the young kids are clamoring to see. And then there's that mid-tier, which is the ones that we all want to see. It's the bands we grew up with, like, Smashing Pumpkins and Metallica and U2 and all the classic bands, And then there's the gold circle ones, which is, every couple of years when the Stones get back out for a tour.
There's some of those wouldn't come.
Yeah, I mean, but
the venue wouldn't be
those middle tier, all those 90s pop bands, all those 80s reunion tours, all the ones that hit those places like Bluegrass Underground up in Pelham, Tennessee, all the ones that hit those smaller venues like that, every one of those acts could do well in Findlay Stadium because Findlay could get them cheap. And I guarantee you, there's enough people in Chattanooga. If it was a pretty night,
Seeger.
Oh yeah. I mean,
really?
I don't think Seeger. Shit, you kidding me?
You think Seeger?
Absolutely, Seeger would sell that place out.
Seeger's retired.
Yes, could, but would he come to a venue like that?
Well, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. But he's out on
Come
tour.
retirement just to play Chattanooga.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think because he's not playing at all. There for a second, I had a brain fart and I was thinking Michael McDonald, but I mean, a lot of the guys that come to Chattanooga that play some of the smaller venues, I mean, even the ones that, McKenzie or whatever it is now has always been the up and coming arena. It was, you always got everybody before they came back even bigger than they were the first time around. Kenny Chesney plays there, and 2 years later he's headlining Neyland Stadium.
Okay.
So you get a lot of.
Well, they got a lot of.
You could sell a lot of that.
When it first opened in the early '80s, mid '80s, they got a lot of big time.
Absolutely, they did. Public Enemy played there back in the day. Aerosmith played there back in the day. Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Metallica, all the Black Crowes.
Kenny Rogers.
ZZ Top. I mean, my mom saw Willie Nelson there one time, saw Ronnie McDowell there one time, saw Julio Iglesias there one time. I mean,
I saw Barry Manilow there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Elton John play McKenzie.
You guys are everywhere.
Of course, I saw Ronnie McDowell at the Jukebox Junction at Lake Winnie, too.
Older
We're not
women.
riding any rides. We're just sitting there watching the show.
Older women. Yep.
The Jukebox Junction.
Yeah.
Hey, what's
we gave a pub for that.
It was.
Ain't had a pub in a long time.
It was some good shows. The problem was I'm 9 years old and hey, can I ride?
Can I ride the Cannonball?
No. Don't ask.
As a
You're
former
getting popcorn.
As
Don't
a
ask.
former employee of Lake Winnie, I will say that the biggest weekend of the year, no matter what year it was always when Exile came to town, because those guys just sit up there and reel off hit after hit after hit, and it was always huge. The summer that Mark and me and Tanner all three worked there, Exile finished the summer off, but that summer a young up and comer by the name of Aaron Tippin played Lake Winnie. And
just for inside knowledge, in case I was ever had to give this to get out of jail, what was your job at Lake Winnie?
I was I worked in the games department.
In case I had to bail you out, and they said, how good do you know it?
How good do you know him? I worked in the games department.
The games department.
And worked for Dean Pulver, one of my favorite people in the world. And
be specific with the games department.
Well, okay, so I started out, the first game I ever worked was the little fishing game that sat over there to the side by the paddle boats. And then
that rip off.
Yeah, and then Mark and I together got moved over to the other side by
You can't help but make money running that thing.
Oh my God, it's just straight money.
Yeah, rip off for the people.
And then Mark and I got moved over to
a 3-cent prize.
We got moved over to the right beside the double
Andy
Ferris
Griffin
wheel.
Run people off like
That's right. We went to the double Ferris wheel and we ran the speedball and the basketball game.
There you go.
And we ran that for almost the entire summer. And then one afternoon, I got to feeling a little bit bad, so they put me all the way down by the golf course where the machine gun games was, because it was in the shade. And I made more money at the machine gun game that day than anybody had all summer long, and I never got to leave that game.
Virtually impossible to win.
Just because you had tenure there, if you had your choice of jobs, looking back on it, what would it have been if Rusty Parkhill could have walked up to the boss and said, I want this one.
I know what mine would have been.
The golf course.
The golf course.
Hell yeah. The mini golf course had a little house that you sat in.
Okay.
Had a fan underneath the counter, a little one-room air conditioner that blew out from under. You had a stool that you sat on all day long, and all you did was sit there and work a cash register.
All right. So that
my dream job when I was 4 years old.
Let me hear it.
I wanted to work at Lake Wamasoka. I never did.
Yeah.
But I wanted to work at Lake Wamasoka, and I wanted to be the DJ on the Himalaya.
DJ.
Yeah, that's a good gig too.
That was the cool job. Or the guy that worked. Remember the old T-shirt, the rock T-shirt?
Oh yeah.
Shop right there by the entrance
where
to
you
the
work
train?
the press, the heat press.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember the hand trains?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you got to be of a certain age to remember those, but you sat on them
and pedaled.
And you cranked them with your hand. You cranked the trains.
Yeah.
I remember those.
You tried to crank them so hard you ran off the track.
Oh yeah. And you
remember before they put the fence up at the turnaround for the Alpine, the chairlift, that you just raise up and you jump out the side.
Oh yeah.
About an 8 or 9 foot drop.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Well, I think maybe a good job would have been if you could have escalated to just feeding the fishes out there. If you could,
those carp lived on popcorn, cigarette butts, and spit.
Well, that's right.
Massage that one's tumor on his back. It looked like an eye sticking up. Yeah, it looked like an eye coming up out of the water. I mean,
he's not still there, is he?
Who knows? I don't know how long
those
them things live.
300 years old.
Seriously, I mean,
never gonna die.
Say what you want. I mean,
they got to be protected.
And you know what's coming up in 3 years?
Kind of like Buffalo. I mean, they got to be protected.
3 years is Lake Winnie's 100th anniversary.
100.
If you've ever seen some of the
1925, if I'm not mistaken,
some of those old pictures and stuff,
I've seen pictures as far back as when they actually had a swimming pool out there.
Yeah,
but I was told a story about that swimming pool that it was closed because they couldn't protect it well enough from a standpoint of people's safety.
Well, I mean,
it was over there where
it's where the haunted house is now, or I don't even know if it's.
Wacky
I think
Factory,
it's the Wacky Factory. Yeah, something like that now. But it's right there by where the
carousel,
by the carousel and the antique cars. I mean, if you look,
it would only take one person drowning to say
right.
enough.
And when you look at how big that pool is, you could have put a whole lot of people in that thing.
Yeah,
and depending
size.
on the depth of it, and depending on how many lifeguards and stuff you had, I could completely understand.
Well, that's what I was told.
Why they would
that
have
would
done
go
that.
back a long ways.
Yeah.
I have no way of validating that information.
I used to be able to tell you how to. I used to be able to tell you how to beat every game on the Midway. every one of them has a secret, and we won't get into that off air. I'll tell you 2 or 3 of them, but there's a. I will say that one of my favorite games to work was always the crossbow game.
All right, so if you never got enough seniority, Rusty, to get that mini golf job over there, because I think you would have retired at it if you had ever landed it. I honestly felt like in his voice he'd have never left that job.
That's good stuff.
What would have been the second one? What would have been the one? I haven't heard y'all say boat shoot. I mean, are y'all scared of the boat shoot? What?
Well, if you believe all the stories about snakes falling out of the ceiling on people and stuff like that.
You didn't want to be part of that.
We used to go to the skee ball and win the fake rubber snakes.
Yeah,
and dip them in the water and just throw them in the front of the boat.
I liked
and wait for the.
Okay, so that's where the whole story started.
Probably.
I always liked
you talk it up in the back and then you just throw one up front and just wait.
The pig racing game was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
It was it was in a trailer. It was self-contained and it had a little bit of a ventilation system and all in it too. Had a couple fans and stuff in there, so it was always kind of nice. And you were elevated up where you could see everybody. You had kind of a place where you could lean instead of you couldn't sit on.
Now,
nothing,
when you
but you had a
see
place where you
aerial
could lean.
shots of the, I've seen aerial shots of the 50s and the early mid 60s, and I'm born in '63, so I'm gonna take a wild guess. My first time out there might have been somewhere in the '60s, somewhere. It's pretty sparse in comparison to how they've,
Oh yeah. I think the cannonball, the Alpine Way, the boat chute are the only 3 things besides the Midway and that main concession stand are the only things original left.
Because the cannonball wasn't original because that, like I said, the park opened in '25.
Yeah,
the boat chute is the original ride.
Well, and then there's.
And Scott, you don't like heights. I don't care for heights. I am accurate in what I just said.
I'm okay with heights. I'm afraid of widths.
Oh,
I don't like heights. No, I don't like heights at all.
Assuming you're afraid of heights as well, the
it's a Stephen Wright joke. Had to throw it in there. I'm okay with them.
The Ferris wheel, which gives you the optical illusion that you're fixing to be dumped into the lake with the fish with the 3 eyes, Rusty.
The regular Ferris wheel ain't the issue. It's that dadgum double Ferris wheel. I'm telling you now, you ain't lived until you've been over there. You're a young 16-year-old punk sitting over there working your baseball game, watching that double Ferris wheel go over beside you, and all of a sudden somebody at the very top decides that they had one too many corn dogs at lunch that afternoon and it ain't gonna make it out of that double Ferris wheel. And next thing you know, you hear something splattering and all those poor people down on the bottom just, that ain't nothing worse than that, man. All of a sudden you look up and here comes 2 of the, the workers walking with 2 big 5-gallon buckets of water. All you can do is just, sling it over there on it. There's a bunch of those rides out there too that people don't realize.
The tilt-a-whirl. Isn't that something that's just designed to give somebody a case of
whiplash?
Well, that or that.
That was always one of my favorite rides.
What's the one you get when you get dizzy?
Oh, Vertigo.
Vertigo. Ain't that just? And I've had that before. I shouldn't forget that. But isn't that just a ride that's just designed to give somebody immediate vertigo?
Something like. Well, 2 or 3 of them out there are the travel rides. They take them about as the season ends. They take the tilt-a-whirl's one of them. The not the music pop now, it's the Himalaya, not the Himalaya, the Matterhorn, I think, is the one that looks like the sleds that goes around. They've got about 5 rides over there that they take down every year and take on tour with those traveling carnivals.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. The music pop used to be one of them.
So they getting a side rental fee as the rest of the year.
I think the funniest thing that used to make me laugh about that place is that people would literally sit out there and blow a paycheck to try and win a stuffed animal that if I told you what the actual wholesale cost of that stuffed animal is, you would be
that goes back to the old Andy Griffin scene where it's that
shooting game you're talking about.
Oh.
Where it's got 100 shots, you've got to shoot the entire red star. It's like virtually impossible.
Now,
I've saw it done 5 times.
The best way
total.
to do it, I think, would just be shoot a line right across the top and just drop
Can't
the card.
do that. The card has to stay.
And wrapping that all in, we prelude Lake Winnepesaukah pretty good right here. We found Scott's job. If he would have been ever gone to work there, he'd apply for it. Rusty, who's never got the promotion to get to where he wanted to be, because if he had got that job, He'd still be
I'm
out
still
there,
there,
some
man.
form of management
Still there.
by now. But there was a time that, and this goes way back, Scott, Rusty, Stump on Sports, had an all-star meeting at Lake Winnepesaukah.
Yeah.
Kicked off the Tennessee-Georgia
At Jukebox
All-Star.
Junction.
Yeah.
Had all the players could come out there and go.
So
and
when they thought we weren't going to ever talk sports,
Yeah.
we actually had
We
a
actually
reason
did.
to prelude.
I forgot all about that. We did do that. Yeah, because we came out there and rode rides that day.
Did it at First Tennessee Pavilion one year.
Yeah, I remember that.
I guess it was still the Chattanooga Market.
God,
back
then
then?
yeah, that was like 2003, 2004,
and what
something like
did we
that.
have at Hungry Fisherman?
Well, it
Oh,
was.
that was the All-Star.
Yeah,
banquet.
that was the All-Star
All-Star
banquet.
That was the North Georgia. I think it was just North Georgia back then.
No, because the offensive line award. Remember, he found those.
That was that was the stuff on
the
Sports
trophy he
Awards,
gave to the offensive line of the year was Howard and him from Ottawa, and he had found some yard statues, and it was like pigs driving pickup trucks or something, and that was what he gave him as trophies.
Okay.
I always remember
I
that.
remember
I
we had
missed
it
the Hungry Fisherman.
Oh Lord, you kidding me? That daggum all you could eat seafood buffet they had back in the day. That was high rolling.
Well, it was slightly ahead of its time, but and maybe we're giving somebody an idea to say, hey, I just thought of a good
Man, you'd
idea.
have to go back there and just
Seafood
completely
buffet.
rebuild that whole. Man, just go. But the
Well, it
whole
was
thing
a
about it.
quirky spot.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing about it, you go back there and the whole darn thing looks like a boat, and they had, they would have those fishing roundups, and you had the playground out back.
But it was hid.
Oh, it was.
I mean, it was
but
absolutely
God, that
hid.
place was
Could
so
you imagine
awesome.
somebody coming in from out of town trying to tell them how to get there?
I mean, that was, as a kid, that was probably, on the nights that we got to go to that, and I bet my whole childhood we probably only went 5 or 6 times.
I don't even think I went that much.
But that was the spot, man. I mean, if you go out there, that you knew Mom and Dad had a good week if you got to go to the Hungry Fisherman. I mean, that was
just sitting here. Yeah, I watched Rusty. Absolutely, too bad he's not on film. He lit up when he went back and reviewed his visits to Hungry Fisherman.
Shoot, man, that was good stuff.
I'll tell you, the restaurant we used to go to all the time. If we didn't go to Godfather's Pizza, we went to Duff's.
Oh, Duff's Smorgasbord.
And Duff's, and we went to one in.
And they had the audacity to call it a smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord.
They had one in Daytona,
and
but
had
it's
the
now
big spinning
closed.
buffet, boy. If you didn't get a scoop fast enough, you was chasing it down.
It's
Nobody
now
was going to
closed.
call it no buffet.
But 5 years
Nope.
ago, we went down. We were trying to eat somewhere else, and it was like an hour and a half wait. And I turned around and saw Duff's, and I said, "That's where we're going."
There was one in.
You're
like,
telling
no,
me
wait.
there's still a Duff smorgasbord.
There used to be one in
was, but
Sevierville.
it was closed down this past October.
There used to be one in Sevierville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One in Sevierville. There's one in Sarasota, Florida. I know for a fact. I was down there 2 years ago.
I mean, anybody, I guarantee you, if you ask enough people, somebody's had to stand with one of them big spoons in their hand and wait for whatever it was that it came out of to come all the way back around because they weren't scooping fast enough.
Don't put that turnip green spoon
Hey.
back in the peach cobbler.
Telling you, man, and you had the arcade in the back then that had, all the video games back there were for a quarter.
Yeah. Well, what I remember
Had
about
pizza back there, pizza buffet,
it
had
was-
televisions.
it was very. This goes way back in time, but it seemed like it was a very dark, gloomy way to get into the place. Wasn't lit.
Yeah, the lighting wasn't-
lit
Yeah,
very
no,
well.
it wasn't.
But all of a sudden, when you got out there and got around
Oh,
the
my
food,
God, it was like-
it was worth that.
That's the
You
best,
heard,
best
you heard
fried
Handel's
chicken.
Messiah as you walked in there. Oh,
There used to be, there was actually an arcade next door briefly, and then became Zayre's.
Yep.
Because we used to go over there and shop, and
We were talking
all the time.
we were
Man.
talking in class the other day. One of my classes, I don't even remember how we got on the subject, something about video games or something, and I was telling the kids, I was like, I'm telling y'all, when I was a kid, if you got to go to the arcade and all you had to have was a $5 bill, and you were good for a couple of hours.
$5 keep you 2 hours.
$5 was 20 quarters. My grandma would take me down to Funway USA down in Fort Oglethorpe, which was right there in the same plaza where Hardee's and everything is.
Yep.
And down there on the corner, and I would go in there, and for $5, I would play for a couple of. I remember one time I went down there. The coolest thing, when you're a kid, the littlest things you think is just awesome. But the guy that ran the place was in there. And I was playing Dragon's Lair, if you remember Dragon's Lair,
yeah.
which was
Not at all.
Dragon's Lair was this video game that was eons above its time. It looked like an actual animated cartoon when you were playing it. It was way, way above its time. And I was trying to do it, and I didn't understand that there was a way that you had to do it like a pattern.
You had to wait for it to light up. And
you didn't move it the way you would other things. So the guy came over there, and he was trying to tell me, and he looks over at my grandma, and he's like, if you've got a few minutes, if you don't mind, he said, I'll show him. And she was like, okay. Dude walks over there and drops a quarter in and takes the strategy guide over there and sits down on a stool and goes through, and I literally sat there and watched him go all the way through and beat the Dragon's Lair game. And it was one of the coolest things, as a little kid, stuff like that.
I bought the strategy
like when you
guide.
got that kid that's that's getting the high score on like Centipede or Galaga or something.
If you ran into him today, would you refer to him as coach?
Absolutely. That was awesome.
I bought that strategy guide book at the book fair at school one year.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, it was Funway. Ziggy's was up here on the corner at Cloud Springs Plaza.
Well, and then you had that was the one
Edsels
over
was in East Ridge.
Edsels, yeah, and then you had that one over there on Brainerd Road, that All America Arcade, the one that was behind where Anchors is. That was like that whole plaza was nothing but arcade.
But the one I remember most of all was Buzz's.
Yeah.
In East Ridge, because you go over there for $2 for 2 hours. You got a time card. And you actually punched the clock, and all the games had a little, button that was, hung off the side, and you just hit the button and it started the games. You could play pool for like $1 or something like that.
Well, I was going to say that Mike Massey had a place in Brainerd Village, but I think Mike Massey, when he left that spot in Brainerd Village, went to where y'all just said over there by the by Anchors. I thought I remembered.
Well,
that,
you had the one,
the pool player, Mike Massey.
You had the Double Dip Depot back in the day, and just down from the Double Dip Depot, that was Buzz's.
Oh, that's right.
And my uncle and my uncle and my uncle Greg, my Aunt Carol, that live in Chattanooga with us now, used to live in Savannah, so they would only come up, every few months they'd come up. And when I was a kid, my uncle, that was the first place me and him would go, is we'd go to that arcade, and they had the old tabletop X's and O's football. Black and white, literally X's and O's. I mean, no fancy graphics, nothing.
They won the skating rink for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. I was having the other day in class, we were talking about technology and all the things that technology's made great, but all the things that technology's made bad. And that was one of the things I brought up with the kids. I was like, one of the things that I say against technology is, you don't go somewhere and have 3 or 4 kids just sitting around at a table, just sitting there talking.
This is what you need to find. You need to find, and it'll be hard to come up with it, I think. Les Scott's got one that he's holding on to. The electric football table.
Oh, wow.
You can set up the formations of 5 wide, and they'll all end up in the same.
In the dip in the middle.
I almost bought one not too long ago at an antique store. I did. I saw it.
Show that to your kids.
If you can find them, you can find them. Oh, and the little kicker guy that you had, and that little bitty tiny thing that was supposed to serve as the football.
Yeah.
See if your kids enjoy that.
Oh Lord, that would be funny.
And bring Sir Charles in there to put all his offensive formation.
I thought you were talking about the Mattel handheld.
I still have one of those somewhere upstairs.
That one's about his.
You're talking about the one you plug.
And no matter what formation you put them in,
everybody winds up in the same spot.
You had to set everybody. It took 10 minutes to get everybody set up right. Hit the button, and then they.
He's talking about progress being made over here. He can start out with something like that.
Oh my Lord, I forgot.
But the one y'all are talking about was about as foolish as that one.
Yeah, but we played it for an awful long time.
I was going to say, we would play.
There was a baseball game, I remember, that part of it came out with a cord and you pitched.
Yep.
And the other person hit the button.
I remember going and playing pinball for the first time, when, you always had like the old school pinball machines. And then all of a sudden they started theming them, and it was like there was a Kiss pinball machine and the Indiana Jones. And then, when they started doing all that, those pinball machines were awesome. They had all the spinning wheels and stuff, and they made more noise.
And I was in a place off Lee Highway a while back that refurbishes them.
Chattanooga Pinball?
They're don't go in there thinking they're a few $100s.
No.
That's not the price.
Have you been to the Pinball Hall of Fame? I think it's really down.
Pinball Museum
downtown Chattanooga. They've got the Hercules pinball machine that I played for the first time at Lakewood and Basoka in their arcade. in 1979, and I mean, I couldn't even at that age. I couldn't even get both sides for the flippers. But it was seriously, it was about that big
because it's the
wide. The Hercules, and the ball inside is like this big.
Yeah,
it's like a
was
bocce
oversized.
ball.
I will tagging on what you said, Rob. I went in there one time when we were moving into this house. I had aspirations of buying a multicade, which is that's the new thing now. If you instead of buying one game, you buy a multicade, which they cost about $900, but you can get them with up to 350 classic arcade games on them. So they have everything on them from Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, all the 8-bit classics that we all played as a kid. And you get them in one machine. So I went in there to look at those. While I was in there, I was looking at the pinball machines, and it's the same thing. I started talking to the guy about pinball, and I asked him, I said, what's the most expensive one you've ever sold? And that year, the previous Christmas, he had sold an original mint condition 1978 Kiss pinball machine. Ooh. And I said, dare I even ask? And he said it was $122,000 because everything in it it had none of it had been refurbed. It had less than like 25 or 30 hours total play on it. Somebody had bought it and put it like in a house and had paid for the routine maintenance, because pinball machines are, the guy told me, now whether this is true or not, it's, and I think a lot of it's what you particularly collect, but the guy told me that buying a pinball machine was a lot like buying stocks, that once you buy them, that if it's something within a certain realm, the value never goes down. So if it's like a good movie, when like Back to the Future or Indiana Jones or Star Wars or one of those, the value never depreciates. And it just goes up and up and up.
Well, and being in there and just really just not having a good enough concept of what it was, I found it intriguing to hear the numbers, because I thought, it's just I'm not arguing it. It's just a lot more money than I ever dreamed.
Oh yeah,
we were talking about.
I played a Kiss pinball machine at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I remember there was a Rolling Stones pinball machine at the skating rink.
Oh wow, yeah.
And there was I remember a Slapshot.
Yeah, remember that one.
Pinball machine was over from the movie when it first came out. So. Man,
or there's always the biggest.
I never thought we'd get off on this tangent.
Well,
today, but
people love this kind of. I mean, it's the time of year, man, where we're going to be having some more fun more than anything over the next few weeks.
I was asked this the other day, and I didn't have the solid answer, and I hope y'all do in this respect. Somebody asked me what's up with Phil Nicholson. What has he done to make enough people mad at him? And is it got something to do with they're trying to form another league other than PGA? Have you heard this?
Mm-hmm.
And he's somewhat supporting that?
Well, I think I had heard some of that. I also had heard that it could be something similar to what everybody talks about. Did Michael Jordan really step down for 2 years, or was he under super secret probation by the NBA? And most people that know about Mickelson know that Mickelson is a big-time gambler.
Yeah, and I've heard some numbers.
I had heard that was potentially some of it, that he got busted. I don't know, that he shaved a stroke or something here and there to make us, I don't know what he did, but for him to not play the way he has, I mean, they would come right out and say if it was an injury, they would tell it was an injury. At
the Masters.
However,
and they acted like, they didn't say, they mentioned his name a time or two, but they didn't really say anything other than he wasn't here.
Well, you could.
Well, he criticized the tour.
Yeah.
Talking about, and he had made some remarks because it's a Saudi Arabia based golf that they're doing with all this big prizes and stuff, and he made some remarks there that I think he regrets making, but then he said this is they're going to do stuff that the tour should be doing, and a lot of people took that not so well.
Well, and I did, and another fairly well-known golfer that somebody that I heard them say the other day, maybe on SportsCenter or something similar, that Sergio had made the comment, a few more weeks of this and I'm out of this.
Yeah.
Like
There
he's
was
going to something
he got
else.
he got hit with a penalty or bad ruling that he didn't agree with, and yeah, he let it be known that
this Dubai thing is, or Saudi Arabia is something that he's interested in as well.
Yeah.
Has that got legs, Scott?
The kind of money that they're talking about, you absolutely
Talking
right.
about
It's got
$25 million purses?
Got legs, yeah. I mean, it's the kind of money that's available in the Middle East if you're willing to go over there and you're willing to adhere to the code of conduct and all that. Because don't get me wrong, you know good and well, Scott will agree, there's probably a 5-page book of what you can and can't say, how you can and can't dress, all that kind of stuff. They're very, very, very particular.
But the tournaments are going to be all over the world. They got some in Oregon and
Right, but if they're the
other
ones
places.
putting them on, though, I mean, you know.
You have to mind your P's and Q's.
So so two things real quick before we finish up, because we got about 15 minutes or so. So number one, I learned something over the last couple of weeks that I didn't know, and I was going to see if you guys had ever heard of this or not, because I don't think we've talked about this on the show. I did talk about it with some friends the other day. So Justin Bieber, recording artist, has been banned.
Who?
Yeah, I know. He has been banned by Ferrari from ever owning another Ferrari in his life. Now, did you know that when you buy a Ferrari,
What, he tried to put unleaded in it or something?
when you buy a Ferrari, you sign a code of conduct about the car and how you will maintain it and all that. When you buy it, you sign a contract, and there's a whole thing about
know that.
if you, it has to stay, it cannot be anything but Ferrari approved colors, which there are only 4: red, white, black, and yellow, the 4 colors of the insignia. You cannot sell it on an open auction. You can only sell it to a private collector, a licensed private collector, or you can sell it like back to Ferrari, because people don't realize they have warehouses all over the world where they house them all, and you can basically go in there at any given time and buy pretty much anything that you want.
Okay.
But there's a whole thing, and I'd like to look the contract up and see, but apparently he painted his Ferrari electric blue and then sold it like on eBay Auto or something like that. And so they have stepped forward and said, nope, no more Ferraris for you, Justin Bieber. And apparently the Kardashians are blacklisted too. There's a whole list of people that have been 50 Cent, Jay-Z, I think's on it. There's a whole list of people that have been blacklisted from owning Ferraris.
I've never heard of that.
And I can't remember the movie, but it certainly was worth watching on several times on HBO. And it was the movie where Le Mans over there.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Ford versus
Oh, yeah.
Ferrari. And,
Great movie.
And really was a good movie. Really was a good movie by all parts. And I remember when that movie hit, my wife said, "Well, I can't wait to watch that." And then it was a long time before I watched it many times before she did. But you know, the name of the movie didn't do much for me, but when you watch the movie, that was a whole nother world there, and what amazing task that was by
Carroll
Ford
Shelby.
Motor to catch that legendary practice of Ferrari.
Well, and I will back up and say that movie's awesome. Ford's not the one that caught Ferrari. Carroll Shelby and Shelby America is who caught Ferrari. Ford gave them carte blanche to do whatever they wanted to.
gave them money.
The movie doesn't quite show what all they did, but the fact that they were allowed, they took those cars and made them where they could change the wheels faster. They put lighter everything in there.
That's true. And if you really, that's true.
But-
That's accurate, 'cause
but
when
at the
you
same-
watched it was just a matter of, going to Ford and getting the blank check.
But you went over there to their place and beat them at their game. I mean, Le Mans was their, that was their.
But then, if you
stomping
remember how the
grounds.
movie was ended with kind of Ford calling the shots, and the driver not getting
That scene
the
where he
recognition.
the scene where they put Edsel put Edsel Ford in the F40 and take him out there for a ride. Carol takes him for a ride.
Yeah.
He about pees on himself. That right there.
There's a really good documentary on Netflix
Yeah.
about that whole thing, about Carol Shelby and stuff that goes a little more in depth than what the film did a pretty good job of it, but this is, the actual true story. And
it's amazing. I mean, what they, and that's the thing too, is the thing about those Ferraris is they were a little bit slower than the Ford was, but they were indestructible. You could beat those cars with a hammer while riding around the track at top speed, and they weren't going to break. And that was the problem that the Fords had to start with. Is the Fords, they could produce all this horsepower, but they couldn't sustain. And those Ferraris, they were just a little bit slower, but by golly, they were bulletproof.
Mm-hmm. Well, which kind of as the movie ended, and the driver who had so much success
Ken Miles.
and was killed out there practicing on another one of those vehicles that we were trying to get to go 5 miles faster.
Oh, and they did. They won Le Mans that next year. That next year, the one of the teams was Bob Bondurant and AJ Foyt was the two-man team on one of the winning cars, because AJ was his rookie year racing over there. So the last thing I was going to talk about, obviously with us being in the sports media, we can appreciate this, and I wanted to bring it up. 10 years, $375 million for someone who has never, and we talked about this for a second last week, but $375 million for a person that has never said one thing on air.
Well, we're rolling the dice. We're rolling the dice and hoping that works. And I did see this, I don't know, just as of today, and I haven't seen the undertow in a while, but Drew Brees isn't with NBC.
Yeah.
So was that a 1-year experiment that wasn't as great as we thought it would be?
It went wrong.
I don't think he was ever comfortable.
Well, and there again,
I watch those studio shows. I just don't think he ever looked comfortable. I think it's just not him.
Well, and there again, in lieu to what Rusty's just talking about, we've rolled out 10 years and $375 million on an unknown. It's one thing to know that. It's another thing to talk that. Share that.
I think it's
Entertain
weird.
You with that.
10 years, $375 million, and we're never going to see his face.
Yeah, you're just going to hear his voice.
You're going to hear his voice. That's it. I mean, Tom Brady, yes, he's a draw. He's maybe the greatest quarterback who ever lived, and all the accolades and stuff like that, and people have watched him play for 20 years. Now you get to hear him and not see him.
I'll give
and
him.
That's it.
I will give him credit, though, man. I mean, I don't think everybody realizes that the cat's got a radio show that he appears on 2 or 3 days a week and has now for a number of years.
And he's got the podcast and all the other stuff. But I'm like, it doesn't mean you can go out there and just be a color analyst.
So, all right. So here,
I don't know. One
last thing, because that's saying that made me think of this. So we've been doing this now in some way, shape, form, or capacity for over 20 years, all three of us.
Yeah, so when's that big contract coming?
Yeah, no, nothing quite like that. How many times have you had somebody say to you, man, I really enjoy what you guys do. My buddies and I, man, we thought about doing one of these things ourselves. Because our conversations that we have riding down the road, they're really interesting. All right. Can you do it on cue? Can you go for an hour? Can you walk in a room with nothing and bring an hour's worth out just by sitting down and having a conversation?
You talking about a Ric Flair hour?
Just period.
Just go for a Ric Flair.
I mean, can you?
An hour is tough because I've done radio in the past. I did radio in college, and 3 hours was tough. We were playing music, and I'll never forget one day, the girl that was supposed to do a show after mine, she comes in like 30 minutes before we went off the air. Me and a friend was doing the show, and she's like, I have to study for this test. Can you cover the shift tonight? And we're like, man, we got a 6-hour radio show. This is awesome. Yeah, about hour 4, we were dying. We were absolutely dying. We had nothing else to say, and it was pathetic.
Well, we come from the world of having to pause and wait as we would say roll it in the back, and then it would not roll for
not
about
roll
15
in the back.
And so we'd have to ad lib.
Rusty would be the floor manager's mouse.
until we got it to
okay,
roll in the back. Good point, Rusty. Absolutely.
Not as easy as
not
it
as
seems.
easy as it sounds.
Never has been.
You know, but
So we got a lot of spring sports going on. It's in full swing, postseason in Tennessee. Georgia's almost done.
Gordon Lee just wins girls state championship.
Yeah, Gordon Lee won state girls track championship again, third time in a row they've done that. Just dominated the field events and got they had so many points after that first day they didn't even have to have anybody else in the track events. Mm-hmm. And it was only 6 field events. That's how much they dominated. But congratulations to them. We'll try to keep you posted as much as we can on the baseball and softball and tennis and golf or soccer, whatever's going in Tennessee. We'll try to keep you posted. Like I said, state golf tournament for Georgia is tomorrow and Tuesday. We've got some spring football games. I was just at one Friday night. We got a couple more this week, so that's going to get cranked up. And then, guys, we're going to be out of school in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, out of school. Well, Rusty knows that better than all of us. I'm sure he's counting those cafeteria
And a week
days
later,
down.
we'll be back towards sports practice for the next year.
Yeah. And again, we'll start to learn a little bit more about the teams that we think can be formidable in the fall in football. We know teams that took a hard lick at graduation last year, and some teams that we think are on the upstart, and in Hamilton County and North Georgia in general. And I failed to say this. I heard Kirby Smart say this, Scott. I don't know if you knew this. There was 30 kids drafted in the recent NFL draft that had played for Georgia high school football team.
Yeah.
30. That's stout, my friend. And with Georgia had 15, but I don't think all 15 of those had played for Georgia schools. But there was 30 in the drafts. Now, Scott, that we know how filthy the state of Georgia is in talent, and that goes for other sports as well out there. But we live in an area that doesn't necessarily always have that type of productivity that Atlanta Metro Down has in the state of Georgia, where so much of that talent level just oozes out of. But also, I told somebody that said, well, why did North Georgia participate in that? I said, well, it's demographics for one thing. Don't have the numbers.
Yeah. Don't
have the numbers in that respect. And in Chattanooga's world, it's more of you can't say necessarily don't have the numbers, but why there's not enough state championships that come out of Chattanooga. It's simple. There's too many schools. Yeah, and there always has been.
Well, when Gwinnett County keeps expanding and swallows up Walker and Catoosa, we'll go ahead and claim that too.
That's right. Yeah. They can reach out and have us.
Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Scenic City Sports tonight. We actually get off the air at 8:30.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's been a while since we've been able to do that, but we're having fun being back live with you guys, and keep tuning in next Sunday. If everything goes well, we'll be back next Sunday night to talk some more defunct restaurants, arcades, and amusement park rides here on Scenic City Sports tonight. For Scott, for Rob, for Rusty, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of its host and owners and in no way represent the views of the people, institutions, or organizations that Scenic City Sports is involved with in a professional or personal capacity. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show.
far away. Lone autumn day. Yes, the leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. In a strange way, I know I care. You and me in truth or dare. So into my love's eyes I stare. Perfect circles in a square. Yes, and someday